Hello, my name is Tony. Michael Caine is 90, one of the most enduring, prolific and recognisable screen actors of his or any other generation, a fixture in the life of many a movie fan, myself most definitely included. His latest film has just been released. The Great Escaper reunites him with Glenda Jackson, who passed away shortly after its completion. I've only seen the trailer for it, but the glimpses of the quality of the acting it contains is a testament to true lasting talent. Nothing from today's stars comes within sniffing distance. Legendary stuff from legends who cannot be replicated or replaced. It's enough to bring a tear to a glass eye and a lump to the throat of Linda Lovelace. Caine says The Great Escaper is his last movie. I think he probably means it. When the final curtain falls, what film roles will Michael Caine be remembered for? Well, it won't be for the two for which he won Oscars, Hannah and Her Sisters and Cider House Rules. When thinking of the Cainster, who the hell thinks of these two empty barn dances? Just goes to prove the meaningless intransience of awards. Nah, Zulu, Harry Palmer, Alfie, The Italian Job, Get Carter, The Man Who Would Be King, The Swarm, Jaws the Revenge, that's what springs to mind when you think of Michael Caine. Not always for the right reasons, but hey. I don't imagine many will automatically summon to mind The Black Windmill either, a low-flying British spy thriller he made with director Don Siegel in 1974. So why are you reevaluating it then, Bush? Well, mind your own fucking... Sorry, that was rude of me. No, it's a fair question. My revised response, therefore, is... Mind your own fucking... No, sorry. The reason is, I saw it back in the heady days of my misspent cinema-going youth at the old Market Hall Flicker House, and although I found it mildly infuriating and a bit pedestrian and vanilla-ish, I liked it well enough. Then, through the wonders of Blu-ray, the opportunity to revisit it arose, and it's just obscure enough in the scheme of Caine's resume to pique renewed interest, in me anyway, can't speak for you pilgrims, just at you. Plus, I can burn time on anything I choose to burn time on. There's also the issue of Sir Michael of Caine not being with us no more at some inevitable juncture. I feel I will then have to pay tribute to the man in some way. I owe him that for Get Carter at least, and so much more. I don't know what form that tribute would take, a celebratory showstopper cake of a shark eating a seaplane maybe, but representing more Michael Caine movies in the here and now, I think, is a good thing. Whether you or anyone else agrees doesn't amount to a hill of beans in this crazy world, Elsa. In The Black Windmill, which does have a windmill in it too in fact, and one of them is black, and as we know, black windmills matter, Michael Caine is Secret Service asset Major John Tarrant. But before we get to meet him, we are introduced to two schoolboys attempting to fly a model Spitfire on an abandoned MOD base in the English countryside. My guess is they're bunking off from some public school we don't get to see. Underneath the spreading chestnut tree trills in the background, and the intro credits are spelled out in children's building blocks. Some RAF MPs turn up and advise them they're trespassing. They take them to their commanding officer, and before you know it, the kids are rendered unconscious, bundled into a van and driven away. The bogus CO and his female second-in-command drive the kidnap van along the motorway. The woman muses aloud if the two bogus military guards can be trusted to keep quiet. The man's answer is to detonate a radio-controlled explosive in their Jeep, which blows them and the vehicle to bits. So yeah, in answer to your question, looks as if they'll keep quiet. Tarrant is working to infiltrate a gang of illegal arms dealers who are supplying the IRA. He goes to the home of Seal, Delphine Seyrig, a suspected member of the gang. He uses the cover story of an ex-con with a military background looking for work. She tells him to come back when her boss McKee returns at the end of the week. McKee, John Vernon, has been watching their interaction and taking photographs of them together. When Tarrant leaves, it becomes clear that Seal and McKee were the man and woman who abducted the two schoolboys. Tarrant attends a meeting at the country pile of the head of MI6, Sir Edward Julian Joseph O'Connor. He's greeted by Sir Edward's much younger and super sexy ultra-willowy wife, Lady Melissa, Catherine Schell. Also in attendance is his direct superior Cedric Harper, Donald Pleasance. Tarrant is called to the phone. It is his estranged wife, Alex Janet Suzman, in a panic because a man has rung her with information that their son has been kidnapped and will call again later to speak to Tarrant and issue further instructions. It transpires that the kidnapper, calling himself Drabble, wants a ransom in the shape of £500,000 worth of uncut diamonds, which Harper has secured to fund a secret anti-terrorist operation. His knowledge of who Tarrant and Harper are, and what they do, and the existence of the diamonds, leads both men to suspect that someone within their own service is involved. Harper believes it is Tarrant, who has staged his own son's abduction for personal gain, and places him under surveillance by MI6 and police investigation by Scotland Yard. Set up by Drabble, who plants fabricated evidence of an affair with Seal in his flat for Scotland Yard to find, and denied any assistance with the ransom as Her Majesty's government doesn't bargain with terrorists or kidnappers, Tarrant is between a rock and a landslide of rock. He steals the diamonds and decides to go it alone, evading Harper's surveillance team and head into France, where Drabble intends to take delivery of the ransom. On meeting with Drabble and Seal, he discovers his son is not in France but held somewhere in England, which has a view from a farmhouse window of 2 windmills. Drabble takes the diamonds forcibly from Tarrant and ruthlessly kills Seal, framing Tarrant for her murder. Taken into custody and in the process of being escorted back to the UK by Harper and Chief Superintendent Ray Joss Ackland, Drabble and his team spring Tarrant with the aim of killing him to give the impression that he died whilst making his escape. Trouble is, he does escape by jumping off a bridge onto a barge and is now on the loose. Making his way back to England, engaging the help and support of Alex, they discover that the location Drabble spoke of can only be that of the Clayton Windmills near Brighton. The scene is now set for Tarrant to use all his espionage skills and tradecraft to flush out the traitor in MI6, take on Drabble face to face, and get his son back in one piece. Before we go any further, I'd like to take the opportunity to remind you of the importance of subscribing in order to maintain the continued growth, health and welfare of the channel. Even more important, if you're able to do so, is to hit the thanks button and make a very welcome contribution to keeping this channel up and running and promoting the production of new content. Many thanks, much appreciated. Now back to our main feature.
Like the circles that you find in the windmills of your...
On first viewing, The Black Windmill doesn't strike as a typical Don Siegel movie. For him, it's a bit, well, mundane, I suppose, especially when you consider his stellar resume, which included Invasion of the Body Snatchers, Hell is for Heroes, The Killers, Madigan, Coogan's Bluff, 2 Mills for Sister Sarah, The Beguiled, Dirty Harry and Charlie Varick. Doesn't have his signature style shaping it in the obvious and expected ways. It's far less punchy, wired and subversively challenging. But when you look a little deeper, some of his sporadically recurrent themes become more evident, simmering away quietly in the background. People and things are not what they seem. Invasion of the Body Snatchers, 2 Mills for Sister Sarah, and later the underrated Telephone features the notion of paradoxical identities. Indeed, Telephone is lousy with people who are unaware of their duality. They don't know what they are until a line of poetry by Robert Frost triggers their true natures and destiny. The humans in Body Snatchers are in fact alien replicants. The nun in Sister Sarah is a revolutionary prostitute. The military figures in The Black Windmill are gunrunners and kidnappers. The head of MI6 turns out to be the villainous orchestrator of the plot, money at the root of his scheme to keep his nubile wife in the manner to which she is accustomed. Drabble is a codename used by many, not just specific to the leader of the gang. Goals are achieved through deception, duplicity and betrayal, very much in keeping with the Cold War motifs utilised in the writings of Le Carre and Dayton. Then Siegel seems to be in a more playful mood than usual. No stranger to creepier aspects, what with Body Snatchers and The Beguiled on his CV, the opening credits with sing-song children's choir and building block titles suggest the preamble to some sort of horror flick. You want to creep people out with something unnerving? Get a bunch of kids into choral mode on the soundtrack. What could be more fucking shit-your-pants terrifying than that? There are sly and brazen nods to Bond, notably when Harper gets the name Sean McKee wrong and says Sean Connery instead, triggering amused alarm from the others in the meeting he's in.
And whom I believe to be a Soviet agent, Sean Connery.
What?
Kelly.
Again, with a scene in a shooting range and armaments lab in which a Q-type character demonstrates to Tarrant and Harper a modified briefcase which fires an incendiary round. Harper reacts with the gleeful enthusiasm of a kid who's just found a new toy, whilst Tarrant is deadpan and unimpressed. Doesn't stop him stealing the prototype to take to France, where he succeeds in blowing up a vat of wine with it. Well done! Some fourth wall breaking is present in the referencing of 2 films. Tarrant uses the alias Trap, along with a seriously unconvincing German accent, and the theme from The Sound of Music played on a pub piano to send a coded phone message to his wife to arrange a meeting place, which just so happens to be the Dominion Cinema, where Bond producer Harry Saltzman's war flick The Battle of Britain is showing, a film in which Caine was one of the stars. All of this sits surprisingly comfortably and unself-consciously beside the darker, more energetic elements of the narrative. Child kidnap and torture, with Tarrant and Alex subjected to hearing their son screaming in pain down the phone line. The boy's friend, collateral damage, returned alive because he has no value to Drabble, but strung out on hallucinogenic drugs so he can't provide any coherent information. Plus some well-staged chases and action scenes through some fab locations in London and France. It's a pleasantly nostalgic shock to see a London you could still drive around, with a less populated and jam-packed underground you could run through with a surveillance operative in hot pursuit. And what about that giant cross-channel car and bus transporting hovercraft ferry? Rewatching it today, I find I've forgotten such things existed. I travelled on one once from Poole in Dorset to the Isle of Wight. That was one noisy, uncomfortable experience in rattling my fillings loose. Siegel's direction is efficient rather than inspired, and The Black Windmill is a long way from being close to his best work. Roy Budd's score is a fine piece of work from a reliable composer, and Usama Rawi's cinematography has some good atmospheric texture to it. The screenplay, by TV stalwart Lee Vance, adapted from Clive Eggleton's novel 7 Days to a Killing, is somewhat on the trite side, and isn't tightly constructed enough to brush over all the plot holes and logic flaws. Caine is a less good-humoured Harry Palmer, his character inclined towards emotional control and hitting a level of dispassion. He judges it nicely, giving the impression of a professional spook who must remain cool-headed and pragmatic if he is going to succeed. Donald Pleasance is an even colder fish, but one graced with some neurotic quirks, endlessly playing with his moustache, dabbing it obsessively with a tissue, and methodically dispatching documents and tissues to the shredder in his office like it's some sort of executive stress toy. His rituals very likely psychological mechanisms to defend against an impending mental breakdown of some sort. Prime renter-heavy John Vernon gives one of his best performances as Drabble or McKee, a very cold-blooded and ruthless opponent with the unblinking, dead-eyed look of a criminal psychopath. He's a twisted mirror image of Tarrant taken to a pathological extreme. Oh, how I miss the days when women in movies looked like real accessible women with a natural and alluring sexuality. French actress Delphine Seyrig was an art house darling who had worked with Truffaut and Brunel and appeared in the original The Day of the Jackal. She was both gorgeous and intelligent and went on to become a major feminist figure in France, promoting women's rights. Long before the Me Too movement became a new and shiny plaything of the glitterazzi, Seyrig was trailblazing. She directed the 1977 documentary Be Pretty and Shut Up. It featured the likes of Shirley MacLaine, Jane Fonda and Maria Scheider speaking of their experiences of sexism in the film industry. She's the sort of magnetically attractive woman you could watch all day and never tire of the view. Yeah, I know, I'm such a superficial, sexist, pig man thing. Janet Sussman impresses as the hysterically distraught mother who transitions from broken wretch to capable accomplice to her husband in the fight to save their child. And Maria Schell provides fleeting glamour in the sort of role for which she seemed to have cornered the market. That of the much younger wife of some old crock with a rapidly softening dick. In the end, Caine's driven spook Don Quixote tilts at the Black Windmill with a crowbar and a machine gun, saving the day and liberating the kid, which is how you want it to end, and that's fair enough. If it's not Siegel's finest hour, it isn't Caine's either. And even though I can't claim I was all that captivated at the time, and the film hasn't really improved with age, it has achieved a certain something for me. Recently, even though I should have known better because I fucking do know better, I watched the sad and painful screen death of an iconic movie hero, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Now how come Disney outright hates the characters it's bought and owns, to the point where it shovels utter contempt over them and systematically destroys them before the eyes of the audience? What's the game plan? Where's the gain? I have to confess, I don't get it. It's the equivalent of buying a priceless work of art for an obscene amount of money, then turning a flamethrower on it in front of a group of punters who paid to see it. Is it a perverse, subversive power play, burning the past to ashes so that whatever future is prescribed is the one we must sign up to because it's the only future there is? Answers on a fucking postcard because I'm at a motherfucking loss here. I had 100 times more fun and was 100 times more entertained and engaged watching The Black Windmill, a mid-level, underperforming spy thriller made 50 years ago, than I did from something with the sort of budget, resources and technology filmmakers couldn't even dream of back then. At the very least, I didn't feel insulted, patronised, lectured, incensed, marginalised and generally pissed over like some worthless piece of shit rube. You know something, pilgrims? We never knew how good we had it. I bloody do now. Thanks for your time and attention. As always, it is appreciated. If you fancy a bit more involvement, please feel free to hit the like or didn't like buttons, post a comment, subscribe to the channel, punch the super thanks button, or even visit my Patreon page for some exclusive and early access stuff. Meanwhile, all I can tell you is I will return with something else, like I say, as soon as I have something else to return with. Take good care of yourselves, pilgrims, and watch out for those windmills of your mind.